This podcast will mainly focus on how we can reduce environmental impacts on Hamilton Harbor. The approach that we have selected to pursue for the podcast is looking at water restriction and fees for the overuse of water to be implemented within not only the Hamilton Harbor region but the city of Hamilton as a whole. Citywide water restrictions will allow for the reduction of water usage per household throughout the city of Hamilton. Our approach primarily focuses on the limiting of amount of water that is used per household, ultimately reducing the amount of water that is wasted unnecessarily. Overall, we would like to increase the sustainability of water for current and future generations.
First and foremost, it is most important to understand where most of our water is being consumed. As pictured in the pie graph, 35% of water is being consumed for showers and baths, followed by toilet flushing at 30%. We can also see that kitchen, drinking, laundry, and cleaning use levels of water that can essentially be reduced to a sustainable level. Water is being consumed at ridiculous rates that can be significantly be lowered to a more efficient level. Our approach will address ways in which actions can be taken to lower the water usage levels, starting off at the household level and spanning citywide. We have chosen this approach because we believe it is more environmentally friendly and economically viable solution in addressing the problem with Hamilton's wastewater treatment plant. Not only will this be an interesting approach to look into and generate ideas towards reducing pressure, it is also a solution in which we can get the general public on board with. We also believe this would be a good approach to go with, as it is an approach that has been introduced in areas such as Brantford, Ontario, and the city of Richmond in British Columbia.
The city of Brantford in Ontario and Richmond in British Columbia are two cities that use water restriction to limit the amount of water being used in their cities. Although slightly different from our approach, they both meet an end goal of the amount of water that is being used throughout the cities. Both cities have taken an approach with the amount of water that is being used for watering purposes. Watering throughout the summer months of June, July, and August has been restricted from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Furthermore, odd-numbered houses are only allowed to water on odd-numbered calendar days, where even-numbered houses are only allowed to water on even-numbered days. Ultimately, this approach has allowed for a significant reduction in the amount of water used citywide and can act as a prime example as to why water restriction policies should be introduced to the city of Hamilton. Implementing procedures for water restrictions and policies to charge fees for overuse of water can allow for reduced pressure on Hamilton's wastewater treatment plant. Through water restrictions, we can allow for periods of no water. For the most part, this is used for sprinklers. By doing so, it saves water immensely and may allow for individuals to think more suitably when considering alternative ways of water consumption. With implementing fees for the overuse of water, it will allow for residents of Hamilton to be more careful in the way they consume and waste water. Not only do we hope this reduces the amount of water being wasted in Hamilton, but fees generated from the overconsumption of water can be used towards enhancing water treatment projects at Hamilton Harbor.
With any given approach or idea, there is always a few setbacks that are involved. In this specific approach, one setback that we are likely to come across are people who oppose the idea and start a protest against it. Although this setback is extreme, there is still the likelihood of it happening. Many may argue that water is something that we already pay for and shouldn't be used as they please. However, this perspective is naive and does not take into context the bigger picture and preserving Hamilton Harbor. As well, some may argue that water is a basic human need, and that it is wrong that we are being charged for it in the first place, and to have another policy come in only to charge for wasted water is only adding to the problem. It then becomes a problem of ethical concern, and whether or not water should be a commodity in the first place. However, the community must realize that only through collective efforts can we truly make a change in what matters. Our approach is also one that is economically friendly. First, it is cheap to implement because there is no need to change or add any infrastructure. The system is already in place and we are simply adding a charge. Additionally, this policy will not harm those who do not waste water to begin with. As for those who do wastewater and get charged, the revenue coming in from this charge can be used for other developmental projects for Hamilton Harbor. Due to these reasons, our approach makes economic sense and it will bring in more revenue to the city than there will be expenses.
Our approach is a learning opportunity for other cities and has been successfully applied to in certain cities such as Brantford and Richmond. Other cities can also look at this approach to restrict water usage so that this can help reduce the overall water consumption levels. This can increase water availability for other uses such as Hamilton Harbor. It is a viable solution in reducing pressure on Hamilton Harbor and water treatment plant. Fees for overuse of water can be implemented to not only reduce water usage but also generate profit to be used for future projects in the City of Hamilton. This approach helps residents to lower their water usage, which will be beneficial in lowering hydro expenses for residents. Although there are few implications that come along with this approach, it is economically feasible and a wonderful opportunity for the development of the City of Hamilton.
This broadcast was brought to you by Noah, Rabeeshan, Dissneya, and Menaksi.